Well, good afternoon and welcome, Dr. Bill Cosgrove. I am James Brown, and this is Living and Aging with Pride. And we've got the world renowned Dr. Bill Cosgrove on, and we have much to be thankful for friendship, warmth, and family, and all of those good things. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing really well today. It's a nice day. The sun is shining. It's kind of cold, but it's brisk.
Nice day, sun is shining, kind of cold, but it's brisk. And I understand that you were standing in one of those lines to get an incredible pie because your wife wanted you to bring one of those special pies on. How was that? And tell us a little bit about what your experience was standing in that line of hundreds of people wanting that same pie.
Well, it was actually rather ennobling. There was at least a couple hundred, 200 people in line. All of them had masks. All of them were staying about 5 to 6 feet away from each other. All of them were being very responsible and careful. And it made me feel good that so many of our citizens are taking it seriously, being cautious and careful about each other.
And that I would call the simplicity of pie. Now, if you were a mathematician, you would take that in a whole dynamic way.
Well, the first thought came to me was pi, pi, 3.1416, etc., forever, of the ratio of a circumference to the diameter of a circle, which is an important mathematical number. And um, this is a side note, but um, it has occurred to me in the last 2 weeks while people are refusing to accept the voting results, is that first we um, uh, knock down caring for each other and compassion, and then we knock down belief in acceptance of science facts, and now we're having trouble with just basic addition, accepting that 1 plus 1 equals 2 every time, no matter how many times you say it doesn't, no matter which way you look at it, nor what your political bias when you start the addition. It always comes out the same. Maybe boring, but it sure is reassuring.
Well, and that's something we should capitalize. So we sit here on the eve of Thanksgiving. Uh, many of us are concerned that we are facing a catastrophe, and so we're not thankful for this catastrophe. I, on the other hand, believe that everything is for a reason, and I think that we as a world need to face up to our responsibility. And I think that this COVID has rushed us into that understanding that it is time for us to face up to the responsibility of taking care of one another and making sure that our world, that our communities, that our cities and our state, etc., are in a better shape. And I think that that's probably uh, uh, the best way to say, here's where we're at, and this is what we need to do about it. Do you find yourself in as we face this new change, this new transition with this new face of government coming on, feeling that there is an opportunity to do and look at what we are and who we are better now that we're changing the perspective from one particular group of politicians to now another group of politicians? What do you think we're at right now?
Well, we're at a crisis, a change point, and a time when we have to make a decision. And we partly made that decision with the vote. But it, the transition was, it's all about me and me first and us first and the United States first and all of that, hunkering down and being protective but isolationist even from each other. And the voters who chose Biden, I think were saying, we don't want that greed and self-centeredness. What we want is expansiveness. We want to care about each other. We want a world where we're all in this together. And the crises, the tool crisis, the three crises that the United States is dealing with, COVID, then the economic crisis, and then the reemergence of the crisis about accepting each other as far as racial differences. All three of those could get awful, or could be the opportunity for us to all pull together. And I'm hoping that with enough dialogue, enough people saying it, and our leaders saying it, that we will all see that we are all in this together. The whole world is in this together. And we're going to have to face global warming in the next 5 years or so before, or we doom the whole world. And this infectious crisis is a dress rehearsal of, can we work together? Because one of the things is, this is kind of slap in the face. We can no longer believe we're invulnerable. We have to believe that we're all very vulnerable, and that what my neighbor does really affects whether I live or die. Whether
Right.
and that's both the infectious part and the global warming part. And so I'm hoping that that the lesson we are learning is that we have to be together in this if we're going to survive.
I think that the rhetoric of today, or of our past or our current president, has really stripped down and let us see things that have been clearly disguised in other forms of conversation. Not much has really changed, uh, except the acknowledgement that these things do exist, and these repressions and suppressions and these inequalities exist. And now we've got to pay attention to it because the population base has grown, but the population base still is not in a power position. And we say voting enables people to have a voice, to have a word, to have power, and that is transforming our system so that it is an equitable situation. But we're finding that this country has not really changed that much, and now we're faced with change on a number of different platforms, and that's good. We're encouraged now that we're going to have to include more people in the decision-making process, and that process reaps the benefits of more people will be well off and do well and feel well, be well, and those kinds of things. But surely this past political regime has pointed out to us that the differences has been in the dialogue. We have to straighten out the dialogue. He's said things, he's been able to do things, and I don't want to point a finger at uh, uh, President Trump in the sense that he's out there by himself, because he was not. There's a whole large body of people who were part of his thinking, maybe not his presentation, but definitely his thinking. And so we have to do something about it. I'm hoping that our seniors, who are tired on a number of fronts, will say, what can I do now? How can I do it? And this is why I should do it, because they've now been clumped into this big bunch of people that's being neglected or misrepresented, and that's going to bring a larger body of people together to make the right kinds of decisions. So we're looking at a whole lot of transformation taking place, and hopefully we can think about it and do something positive about it. Your thoughts about that?
Well, the senior population is a big and growing population, and we've all been around long enough to smell a lie when we hear one, and to know
Oh,
that. Yeah,
let me interrupt you for a
yeah.
minute. I have never had an opportunity to smell a lie, and I'm just wondering what the fragrance is of that, and is it something that we can put in a bottle and sell?
I think I used the wrong word, but you get the sense in that we are aware of something wrong that isn't coming through our eyes or our ears,
Right,
but we know something is not right when somebody is lying to us, and 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 right now our world is the United States is split between sort of two camps,
right,
which is horrible because we're all human and we're all Americans and we all really want the same thing for our loved ones and our family, but it turns out that when people are frightened, they want to fight, or they want
right,
to flee, or they um, uh, freeze, which is sort of get depressed and just withdraw. But there's another couple things. One is fawning. If you stress somebody, they fawn. They bow down to the local strongman,
right,
and because of fear, they express too much loyalty to one person or one camp or one belief, um, and 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 then the last one is when people are frightened, they also flock together, so that the um, because it's easier to be frightened if we're with our family or with our friends or with somebody else, and all of the fear that the United States has been going through has pushed people to their extremes. So they're tightening down into smaller groups,
right,
that are, and they are, deferring their judgment to some local strongman. That could be the leader of the local militia, um, and 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 really what we need is we need to have everybody, including our elderly, practice being brave, practice stepping into that discomfort, practice being a little bit awkward, practice having a conversation with somebody you don't agree with, um, and facing that fear. And then because when you do that, you realize this other person is just like me, just like myself, and that they're not an enemy, they're not stupid, they're not, um, you know, um, belonging to a cult or whatever. They just have made a different choice along the road. But 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 if I'm brave enough to have a conversation with him and I practice being brave, then I don't fall into the fear traps of uh, giving up or running away or picking a fight or fawning, to some leader. If I practice being brave, then I can think for myself. And that's really the freedom that America celebrates, is not following a leader, but being responsible, making the choices, thinking it through, studying the issue, making your own decision, and then acting on it in a way that doesn't step on your neighbor's rights to do the same thing.
right. So we've got to collect our footing, and we really got to look at what it is that's going to enable us to expand our horizons, if you will, to make this country better. And I think it's not the country we need to think about, it's the people. If we make the people better, the country will automatically benefit from that, and the country being the place we live, reside, think, and pray, and all of those things. And so it's a benefactor or benefitter or whatever it is, beneficial. Ooh, I could go on for days with that, but the whole idea is that when we improve ourselves, we improve our environment.
Right. If I push myself to be better today than I was yesterday,
Right,
to be more conscious, to be more compassionate, to be more forgiving, to be more thoughtful, then the people I interact with will sort of say, "Oh, I could be like that. He's no better than me. If he could be compassionate, I can be too." And it really does start affecting bigger groups of people than just ourselves. But I think the catchphrase is if you want the be, oh, I can't come up with it, but it's something like be the world that you want to live in. And I think it was back from Gandhi, but I'm sure he said it better. But essentially, if I want the world to be better, I have to be better. Right. And that is the honorable, dignified way to improve my world. And once I build up my courage, then I need to reach out, talk to somebody and say, hey, you can be better too. Reach out and call the mayor, call the city councilman, call the congressman, get them on the phone or send them an email and say, hey, thank you for working for me. Here's what I'd like you to do for our world. Because in fact, we hire these people to work for us.
And there's a whole process of what we need. We need to understand why we're voting for someone. We're not voting for someone because they look like us. We are voting for someone because they can take a collective body of information that benefits all of us and help that information make it possible for everyone to follow the rules, follow the laws, and have a prosperous and healthy lifestyle as we integrate with each other and function with each other.
And when we vote for somebody, we're hiring a public servant. And if they're not willing to serve the public, serve the populace that voted them in, not just their voters, but the people who voted against them, if they're not willing to serve that constituency, then we need to help them find a different job. And we need to find somebody who'll take that job who wants to be a servant. And, as I've watched politics over my lifetime, the first time people run for election, I think they get it. They want to be a servant. They understand that the role that they're asking for is to be of service. And then after they've been in office for a while, they get a little egotistical and think that they know better than the voters who put them there. Right. They know better than their bosses. And that's when they need to be, replaced.
Ooh, that's a big word. I've got a question to ask you, and It just came into my brain here. What does living and aging with pride mean to you?
Excellent question. And when I look at the things that I'm thankful for in my life, a lot of it is the relationships that I've built with my family and friends and colleagues. But the thing that I'm proudest of is that I've been able to live my life with my honor and my dignity intact. I've managed to avoid all of those opportunities to be a lesser person. And I've almost always taken the harder road of being better than I thought I could be. And when I look back, it's my sense of dignity that I'm the proudest of. And it's because I had to work the hardest at it, and again, part of that is just living long enough to experience enough to see what the value is. The things that you're proudest of is not the sort of accidental things that happen to you, that that promotion that you didn't really earn, but somebody moved away and you were pushed into that position. And yeah, you can be proud of that, but that's different from the promotion that you earn by your hard work. Right. And I, when we get done working, when we retire, a lot of people think that their worth is because they were so productive, and now that they're not productive in that same way, that they have less worth. And I don't see it that way. I see that, in my work, I've accumulated some knowledge and some wisdom that I still have, and I still feel proud of that, and I still have dignity about that. And I get to refresh that by
Right.
volunteering and using that knowledge and stature to still do good. So I didn't have to, when I retired from a paying position, it didn't mean I could stop being productive. I just learned a different way to be productive in terms of volunteering.
Well, speaking of productive, how many advocacy groups are you involved with?
More than 2 dozen. So I probably can't list them, um, but they come in categories. I've been serving on the Salt Lake County Board of Health. I'm just the recent, and I'm the immediate past chair of that. I'm the immediate past chair of the Medicaid Advisory Council, and I'm still on that. I'm the co-chair of the Early Childhood Advisory Council that advises the Governor's Commission. So those are the kind of the important roles. Then I'm on, I think, 5 committees about immunization advocacy, and I give lectures about immunization advocacy. I'm on either 4 or 5 different committees about trauma and resiliency. And we talked about trauma of particularly in early adverse childhood experiences where emotional injuries in our lives can lead to physical and emotional and productivity problems later. So I think 4 committees about that. Then I think I'm on 3 committees that deal with climate change. And yeah, that's about it.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. It's a prime example of memory gone lost based upon an over-encumbered functionality and advocacy. This man is working for you, and he can't remember why, but he does remember how. And so stay tuned as we give you the results of this. But it's a good thing. And what I like about that is not so much your effectiveness, and let's get rid of the not so much. Your effectiveness is that you are participating in a number of things that are indivisibly connected because it's all about people. It's all about making progressive change and or that adaptation to making things better. So there's really not much difference in all of those different groups in that they're building the same platform of relying on each other to make it a better place and a better space.
What I tell people is that my full-time job now is that I meddle with everything that has to do with children, and everything has to do with children. You know, lobbying at our state legislature, lobbying at the city council, lobbying at our federal government has to do with all of the things that are going to affect children over the next 20 years. And unfortunately, our leaders often think in 2-year increments. They think until the next election, and what can they get away with, and will look good on their resume the next time they're applying for that same job. And our business leaders even have a shorter viewpoint. They only think about what's going to happen for the next 90 days so we get good quarter returns. And really, when wisdom, as those of us who are retired, have accumulated a lot of wisdom. And wisdom says you have to be looking farther down the road. You have to be looking 10, 20, 30, 50 years down the road about what is it that we want the world to become. And I'm not going to live long enough to see those effects in 50 years. But I want the world to be a good place in the next 50 years for my grandchildren's children. And so that's why I'm worried about the environment and global warming, is that it's going to have a bad effect on children by 2050 or 2060, and I can do something now to maybe make a difference. Am I going to make a dramatic difference? No. Am I going to make a difference that I can even measure or see? No. But I know that when I go talk to my congressman about it, I'm shifting his viewpoint a little bit. And that might make a little bit of a difference when he gets with his colleagues in Congress. And that may make a little bit change in the odds that they'll pass a good law. And that will make a little bit of a difference in the odds that we'll have a survivable world in the next 40 years.
I'm loving it. This is Living and Aging with Pride, and I'm James Brown, and you've been listening to Just Talk with Dr. Bill Cosgrove, who is an advocate of this world, of our community, and everything else. So next time, we're going to come back at you with more conversation, and I just love just conversation because all of you out there need to start talking to one another, and it doesn't make a difference what you say, it's that you do say something. So until next time, I'm James Brown, and this is my friend, Dr. Bill Cosgrove. Thank you, sir, for being on. Have a great day. But before we go, having spent much time out in that line getting that pie, what kind of pie was it?
Well, my daughter and my wife are very skilled at making berry pies and pumpkin pie, but they neither one feels adequate to make meringue. So I bought a lemon meringue pie because it's not in their repertoire.
So you stood in the line with 200 pie wanters to get a lemon meringue pie.
That's right.
10-inch diameter, 3.5 inches deep.
Not quite that deep, but.
Well, you got the meringue on top.
Oh, right. Yeah, you're right. With the meringue, it is 3.5 inches. You're right.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a prime example of a man that does not know what the pie he bought looks like.
Well, James, I can't know everything.
And he said it, I didn't, because I think he knows everything. So God bless you. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. You are a courageous man, and we are blessed to have you on this planet fighting for us. And thank you for that. And until next week, when you're full of the turkey, and I want to close with this thing, you know what the turkey said to the chicken. What's up, chicken man? And the chicken said, I'll see you in the pan. Talk to you later.
Be well, James.
You have a great Thanksgiving. God bless you.
Have a great holiday. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.